you who might just have arrived here by mistake is that we're going to be having a discussion with two members on a panel about the Israel BDS campaign. BDS stands for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. So on my right I have Rafi who's here, and he works for an organization called Cameron. He's going to be taking the Israeli standpoint, put it that way. On my left I have Mo, who's also here by PSC, who's going to be talk about why we should have this campaign. The idea is going to be to run this roughly like one of those cheesy TV shows, like Interface or something. So I'm going to ask them questions, they will talk to each other, but then what we're going to do is we're going to get you guys to kind of come in at different points. If you can't hear people, because we are going to be sitting down and people will be projecting, just kind of wave at us and we'll try and do our best. We might be forced past people to stand or maybe a bit of a drag for us. So the idea is to get you guys quite involved, for you to ask questions. But obviously when you have this in a slightly structured way, so don't all come at me at once, you can like be orderly about it and try and move around. Alright, that's true. If you can't hear us and we're sitting way at the back, I might start sitting there. I feel like that's very easy. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I'll just ask Mark to give us like a basic introduction, what this campaign is and why you think it's a good idea, why people need to know about it.
I think a good way to start would be to find out where the word boycott comes from. Captain Boycott is his name, an Irish guy. During the Irish Land War, he traveled from the UK to Ireland and he became the estate agent for an absentee landlord. He, in essence, became the controller and the owner of all the land of this landlord. And the people that occupied this land, they asked for their rents to be reduced because of the difficult times that they were going through. Now, Captain Boycott not only refused to reduce the rent, but he also evicted the people living on this land. The people or the community then got together to start discussing as to how to deal with this eviction. And in this meeting, the main sort of organizer, his name being Charles Parnell, proposed that instead of taking on a violent strategy or action, that rather an isolation tactic be used, that people resist by refusing to deal with Captain Boycott. And so people stopped working on the fields, people stopped working in the stables of this man, local businessmen stopped trading with him, and even the postman refused to deliver his mail. And eventually, just to cut a long story short, eventually this Captain Boycott, who had become this absentee landlord, whatever, in Ireland, moved back to the UK, and the land was then negotiated between the community as to how to go forward into the future. So, if you're looking at the story and applying it to the Israeli case, we see that there is an issue, there's a man who's doing something unjust or illegal. So we will get to that as to whether it's applicable in the Israeli case or not in a second. Probably just to be wrong two more. So there's something wrong. People get together to decide how, and it's important that the people affected, in this case of Captain Boycott, got together to decide as to how should they keep the interests of the community. So applying it to Israel Palestine. We have a few uncontroversial, well, it's made controversial, but there are a few factual stuff that we can get out of the way. Israeli settlements are illegal according to international law. The highest judicial body in the world, the International Court of Justice, has ruled that the Israeli separation war is illegal. Leading international jurists, Professor John Dugard being the main jurist in this, recently celebrated at the law school as a father of human rights in this country. John Dugard, in his report to the United Nations, has made the case that Israel is guilty of the crime of occupation, the crime of apartheid, and possibly the crime of colonization. It's not really a crime of colonization, I guess, the colonization process. And lastly, most recently, our judge, Richard Goldstone, in his investigation into the Gaza, into the attacks on Gaza, has made the case that that it's not just set up a body, and if it doesn't set up a body to investigate the war, that countries that have international jurisdiction should prosecute and should prosecute and therefore arrest Israeli generals that took part in the Gaza war for crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the use of illegal chemical weapons. So these are the wrongs, or these are the illegal or unjustified acts of Israel. And then, so how does the boycott come into this? Well, in Palestine, in 2005, the wide variety of civil society, Palestinian civil society, including trade unions, faith-based groups, Christian organizations, etc., came together to make a call for the international community to support its boycott of Israel. Now, important that the call has come from Palestinians as a tactic, not as a principle, because you get two forms of boycott. You get the principle of boycott. People don't buy South African oranges because they come from South Africa, but then later on, when the South African oranges becomes a campaign, then it becomes a tactic. So Palestinian civil society got together to address the question of resistance to Israeli occupation, apartheid, illegal war, and settlements. How do we bring Israel in line with international law? How do we put pressure on them? Do we take up armed resistance? Do we continue speaking? Or do we look at creative methods to bring the two parties to sit down on just terms and to come up with a negotiated settlement? So that's where the boycott, Palestinian boycott is coming from.
Right. So what I want to say to them is, it sounds like the narrative that we're getting from this side is that what's happened is that we have an act which is an illegal act, just recapitulating what's happening here, and then what we have is we have a decision to take a specific strategy in terms of responding to this, which is a non-violent strategy, which is being counterposed to potential other options for responding, which are violent ones, and saying this is perhaps a better option, and that it's justified by this kind of act. So this is the story we're getting from this side. Maybe you can give us some kind of...
I just want to start off that, first of all, I didn't know that I was debating on Ireland, that's kind of more research of that, but you know, the history of the conflict does not start with Israeli settlement building. Indeed, the conflict goes back you know, quite a bit further than that, and I mean, we've got, you know, something that he said is that John Dugard calls Israel a colonial state. But I mean, there was a major differentiation between the Zionist enterprise and colonialism. Firstly, if you look at the main characteristic, main feature of this difference can be seen in the fact that economically, money was poured into mandatory Palestine, and not the resources of mandatory Palestine weren't pillaged for a European power. Secondly, the view of Zionism was always to create an independent state, independent of any of the European powers. So we cannot compare the Zionist enterprise to colonialism. So that's, I mean, even Amir Faisal, in correspondence to the Zionist enterprise, said that we international Arabs look forward to the Zionist enterprise in order to expand the economics of Palestine, and that's what they did. I mean, another feature of colonization is that you have a population whose land is stolen and enslaved and forced to do menial labor. This contrasts with the Zionists coming to Israel. In the second Aliyah did not use cheap Arab labor. They instead, as in the case of Haifa,